Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I have the unique honor and pleasure to host Secretary General Usosiba Jikelele, Unobhala, United Democratic Movement, a young lad, as you can see, and he put me under pressure because before this conversation, he actually went to also knit himself up in a nice haircut. I did not, but
No pressure,
I
please.
want
No
you to
pressure.
know that we have someone that is I've seen him over time. He's very neat. He's a soft-spoken person. I know that he's not afraid of color. And as you can see, I was actually looking at all his Instagram pictures and some internet images that I could see. And I realized that we now have a leader amongst us. I don't know where he has not been, but I know he's been to Rwanda. I know that he's been at Dar es Salaam in Tanzania,
Tanzania, yes.
and I know that he's widely celebrated. I given honors in platforms that we are yet to receive, and maybe we should desire to. I have Yongama Zigebe, United Democratic Movement General Secretary. I want you to feel welcome, Sil. Kunjan.
Ndiyabulela Mkhulwa, thank you very much. It is also an honor for me to be here in this podcast. I think I was mentioned twice
Yeah.
before I came here. December 11, and I was like, okay, why am I not invited if
Yes.
I'm mentioned? And I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, yes, I've busted unbeke under pressure, man. For a couple of weeks when the invite came. And I'm one person who does not take lightly this opportunity that you've just offered myself, also other young people within the political space. So thank you.
Ngozi, thank you so much for coming through. I really see you and this constellation of other leaders in the city, in Nelson Mandela Bay. We've seen you like on foot doing work. We've seen the profiles, and I've looked at your profile, and you're coming back, even leading as a councillor and going to parliament and volunteering your services as an administrator for UDM. I've seen the work that you've done as a communicator, and we will get to that work, but I want to find out ukuthi uYongama ungowaphi uzalwa ngubani.
Nghambo zami ke zinabile.
Yeah.
I was actually born here in Port Elizabeth, up at Doranginsa. Umakhulu wami ongudabawo kamama, she's 90 years old this year. Ulapha eNewton, eMotherwell. I was born in that house. She actually reminded me of it when we were burying my grandfather just a couple of weeks ago. He was 84 years old. So yabona uba sifase badala ekhaya.
Which is great, which is great.
But yeah, unfortunately, my mother passed at age,
Sorry to hear that, yeah.
she was like, what, 55 or so. But she was one of those who left early. But most of my family members, bayabambelela, ubomi babutya ne-tax,
Yeah.
and all. So I was born here. Originally from Engcobo. My biological father is from Mthatha, and I was raised by, asinaye ke thina stepfather esiXhoseni, sinotata, utata ngutata ke qha.
Yes.
So I was raised by utata uZigebe osuka eNgcobo kwayena. Then my mom's family moved to eButterworth, bawuma indende khona. So ke umuntu uzawuthi usuka kwezo ndawo.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I'm a South African. So I'm from South Africa, and I'm an African. So I'm from Africa. So I grew up in Joburg. I went to Joburg when I was, 7 years. Started schooling there.
Bohlalaphi eGauteng?
Alexandra.
Alex, oh, okay. I'm
Gomora.
not going to say what we know Alex for. I still want to host a couple of people from Alex.
Emagundwaneni.
So I'm not going to say you said it.
I think Alexandra as well, we try and we inter-exist with Amagundwan. I think we got used to that.
Yeah, no, I don't want us to. So abantu base Alex, we really love you. We understand. But this young man has actually now the whole country as a political leader up in my brain, and I want us to get to know him. And you talk so fondly about your mother who sadly passed away, Sasemcha, at 50 something. But then you also spoke about your grandfather. But come back a little bit for us, Oguti. Where did you get this leadership thing? I will call it. Where did you get this awareness apho efamilini yakho? What sort of ziphi ingcambu zayo within your upbringing? Um,
Xa ndisiva imbali wena mkhulu, it comes from a great great grandfather who was a leader then engcobo in the society. I would think if he was in the urban areas, you know, he would have been called, a liberation stalwart or something. He led the Methodist Church at the time, and I'm told that everyone odingayo ekuhlaleni, my grandfather opened doors 24/7. That's my great grandfather, and I think then my mom embodied that because at some point she became a lady bishop and leading a church when her husband passed. So I get that from Abu Bandwaba because I've always been surrounded by leaders. Ulanduka brother kamakhulu wam, my mom's mother, brother wakhe bengumfundisi naye, following in his father's steps. So it has always been in an environment whereby lineage yam leadership and all. Igama lam ke Yongama. Yongama means leadership. That's the simplest way of defining it. So, and I think that when my mom and Landuka and Tia, maybe she did not understand at the time, but as time goes on, she even said it to myself, Ndobachin, ilandele igama lakho. And ke ngoku, following this trail, the lineage of leadership, and I've embodied that. Ndagqiba yona ndazongena kwa-UDM, whereby you've got this ethical leader whom is just impeccable in how he deals with issues. Umuntu ongachaphazelanga ngantweni and all of that.
the Major General.
The Major General himself. So ilolo hlobo nje imbali yami when it comes to leadership. And again, I think kwasesikolweni I've been a prefect, I've been an SRC president at some point. I hated politics. I need to say that. But I hated injustice more. So I would take up these leadership positions. I think when I was at school, I was not thinking about these are politics. I was thinking about this is a responsibility, you know, into umuntu akwazi to avert or to deal with the injustice that we're faced with.
It's a quotable quote. I hate politics, but I hate injustice more. Did you think you were going to be a minister of the word at some stage? I'm saying this because I remember at some stage we used to see you a lot around churches, Dunyati.
Yes.
Yeah, were you close enough to think that that is part of one of your pathways in life?
I how do I put this? Uh, because in every space that I've entered, I've always been elected a leader or appointed a leader at some point. So when I got saved in 2007, remember Ndoba, I'm come from a mainstream church kind of situation. So when I was aware ngoku, and I needed a relationship between myself and God, so I got saved. Rather than ndoba ndifollow okay ndikhuliswe enkonzweni ndikhuliswe in-Christian values and all of that, but that does not mean that you have a relationship with God. At some point you need to take the decision yourself in order to have that close relationship with God. So I got saved 2007, and I went out of the traditional church that my family went, so I chose my own path. And that's where, and I started ministering. at the time. So would win souls, would be in the streets, and I rose in leadership in the church. And it was all about not thinking that I would be a pastor or evangelist at some point, but I was just doing the Lord's work. You know, so yayingekho laa nto yoba I would be a minister one day. I would be this, but I was just doing the Lord's work. I was just making sure that people get saved and so on and so forth. What out the program is you'd find Yongama Payan. To a point, I would be at church throughout the week, preparing for service, running service, all over the place. I would be in the choir, I would be in the... I would be,
Uyakwazi at all.
I tried.
Ukhona
I
umuntu
tried.
endimaziyo othanda uba selani ke, here's my daughter calling and I'm in the middle of a conversation. Mntanam? Yeah? Okay, tell mama.
That's a beautiful thing.
Sekhaya,
That's a
and we're
beautiful
gonna
thing. So,
keep that there.
yes, please, please, by all means. This is a blessing, by the way.
Ngiyabulele. Now, we also take it lightly that someone, even though you might have had few people that are necessary for your upbringing, that you did have people that were necessary for your upbringing anyway. Who are those people that anyway were there to actually nurture Uyongama?
One would be my mother. One would be my mother. And when she passed, I even declared this and I said, I've lost everything. There's nothing else I would ever lose. Whatever a person brings my way and say, "Hey, Yongama, I'm bribe and think that I've got everything else to lose. I said, I'm a dangerous species because I've lost everything. Then it would be my grandfather, you know, because his ethical behavior or nature, it taught me a lot about humility, about how do you handle people, how do you even greet abantu abadala. I even joke with abantu abadala xa bendibulisa kuqala and everything. I'm like, no, it's my responsibility as a child to do that because ndikhuliswe ngolo hlobo. Then it would be the church. The pastors I've come across, they've had a very impactful, role that they've played in my life, and the general. And as much as at the time when I started with the UTM, he was a leader, but umbukela, it gave me into bachin, the landela, the path right up. And one other person who has been very impactful in my life and who became a mentor, who deputy president,
Yes.
he would wake me up at 2 a.m. and said, read this book. And I want at 6 o'clock to, give me a summary of this. And I was like, look, Putin, don't like that. And everything.
Really?
And at the time, I did not know what he was preparing me for. So those are the people. Even in the party, Kukoma Monondenja,
My
the treasure generals. Yeah.
best friend's surname is Nondenja. I think they might be related. Mandi like Nondenja, but yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I've seen an Nondenja leadership here
Yes.
UTM, I think in the Transkei region.
Yes.
Yes.
She's from the Transkei, but she's based in Joburg.
Oh.
So those are the people whom have this impact in my upbringing. But as well, I'm a person who learns from other people from afar, and I take what is positive and I embed it in my life and implement it in whatever the case is. So the community of people that I've grown up around, people that I've met, interacted with, had an encounter with, whether negative or positive, but those people had something, that they've, put a seed into who I've become today.
One last question on this issue. With an absence of that mother now, who filled that void? Or who became that mother? Or how did you reconcile that space for yourself, Young?
When she passed in 2019, when you talk about declared, I've lost everything. it was a very difficult time in my life. One, I had not made it in the list. I had not made it into parliament. I was number 6 on the list of the UDM to go into parliament, and I worked myself up, and I was sure biza kwenzeka le nto.
Yeah.
So you have that disappointment. Couple of months later, in October, umamam on the 4th, ubethwa stroke. 2 days late, 2 days into that, which is the 6th of October, is my birthday. I forgot that I had a birthday because my mom is in hospital. 10 days later, she passed. So you've got this thing, you've got the disappointment of not going to parliament when you've worked so hard. And in that list, just for disclaimer, I was the first young person to have been in the list and in the top 10. So
Yeah.
so I was representing the young people of the UDM. So I was very sure, because remember the time we had about what, 5 MPs? So one would think I was cooler, and I'm
Yeah.
going to do this. So it was a very disappointing time. I had resigned from work, focusing on campaign and everything because I wanted this thing so bad. Then you've got that. 4 months later, your mom passes. Another pain and void and disappointment and all these feelings when I was funny. And then I turned to alcohol for solace for quite some time, and to a point whereby deputy president came knocking to my door, and said, "I don't think your mother is happy with how you're behaving and with this alcoholism and everything." Um, then I had to, hey man, something knocked, and I went back to church. And that's when I laid everything, my life, everything. And I said, Lord, this is not, I'm not myself, God. Now I'm trying to find myself again. I've lost this and all of that. Put me together. So my faith had kept me going, had actually closed that void to say, physically, I don't have my mother. Somebody whom I would call and say, Mama, ndishota ngento ithile, and she would jump. Engenayongo, ndimazi bakanayo, but I would call her. But she would make means, uba makayenze loo nto leyo. So ngoku I'm at a point where I do not know who to call, but then I go on my knees. I want to and do that. But besides that, I've got a strong support system. With my family, my aunts, they're always there. Um, and the party, uLantuGolomisa and Ukhwankwa, they are always there. No Mama Nontenja, they're always there in everything that I would want. They're not going to meet all my needs.
Yes, yes.
But when I need somebody to talk to, they call. I've got friends, very supportive friends, within the political space and outside of there. To Nicholas, for instance, is one person who would. There's one thing I like about him. He tells you like it is, and he does not care how it gets to you.
Akafihle makhuba kulini.
Futhi, he would make a joke about your situation, tell and everything, but later on you find there's something that has just been lifted off your shoulders because of you joked about this thing instead of you hold it in and all of that. So I've got those people around, but major. uThixo uhamba phambili.
There's so much I would like to ask, uh, because that's the making, that's how you deal with pressure. It will happen in a different way at a different stage. You will have bigger responsibility, and how you deal with pressure almost sort of replays itself, and as it grows. I've asked this question to many leaders, um, about where do you go to, where do you take all that pressure in your psyche. I know that you go to church now. I know that you call some people around. I'm thinking you now advising the following layer of leadership what to do in pressure as a leader.
One, take a step back. Immediately you hit, there's a wall, there's pressure. Take a step back, take a deep breath, and be calm. And I think that works for me a lot. Just become clear your mind, Because if you're going to go into it with a clogged mind, with everything else that's going on, you're not going to win in any situation that has to do with pressure. So take that time, analyze the situation, you know, go into a space, go into your corner, engotsini yakho, whereby you speak to yourself, you affirm yourself. Akho nto ebalulekileyo nje uba uziaffirme on a daily basis that I can do it. Even in a situation whereby ubona uba everything is against me, all walls ngoku zindivalela andikwazi nophefumla. But that affirmation to say, I'm great, I'm a leader, I can do all things, I can whatever. Because in times of pressure, that's when kungaphumi nevesi. Ayiphumi ivesi.
Ngabo amen.
Amen. But because you have been sowing seeds of positiveness in your life over time, and that time ziyabuya. Yabo. So, without you even uttering anything, then you get this peace that is just overwhelming. But because you took a step back and you analyze the situation, in that analytical situation, that's where you find your solution.
You've had a number of these pressure moments as somebody who communicates for you in Nelson Mandela Bay, where coalition formation were forming across board and they change their form. We have an army boy kind of a leadership structure because it changes over time, which is fine. I'm not complaining about it. And give me an example of that kind of pressure when a transition had to happen, and how did you deal with it? Because for Tina, for other leaders, you are giving us tools, imiqheba, izinto zokubambelela, tools to be able to apply ourselves even when things don't work out.
Hey, Kuro. We talk about coalition. The pressure moment comes in negotiations. Those negotiations are not, a walk in a park. People come with ridiculous demands, and you are seated and are thinking, but are we really here for the people in order to do service delivery and everything? But frustrated came like once because when I decided to be in politics, it was for the people. So every time I feel about lessons I don't go, it's not what we came here for. Vele frats and everything. So in that moment, one ziyenzeka zonke izinto and everything. That one is saying this one is saying this and everything. And you need to provide, a leadership role, because the UDM always provide leadership where there's none or where there seems to be none. So ngoku unale pressure ndoba one, you have to set yourself apart from this noise. And how then do you do it best? You just you take a step back, you let the negotiations go while you're listening to them. But there's something that is happening in your psyche in that moment, trying to find a solution. And it's difficult to be a solution driven person when in a midst of noise, of complaints and all of that. So what I did in most cases, I would take a walk. Take a walk. I'm taking a walk during the day. It's at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Siyaxoxa, siqale uxoxa ngo-8 ekuseni, and there were breaks in between. You going to 2021, the first coalition that took place. It's saphuma meeting at DA, which started at 8 and ended around about 7. Saphuma nanto. We had to run in between in a space of 30 minutes to another ndawo yayikude. We are meeting with the now Secretary General of the ANC, Ufikile Mbalula, in that meeting, which went 4 So now you've got the DA, which is waiting for you to say something, and here the ANC is saying something. You need to be able, to balance and choose the side that would work best, and at the same time you're putting people first, because you are here to represent our people. So you're saying, okay, which devil am I going to work with, and which is going to deliver these services? It's need demands is there that we do not want, bamazitatshwe nabo at the same time they've got these demands. So you look at the one who's got, you know, linear demands than the other one, you're like, I know, sizawuvana. Then there's a time whereby niyaxabana,
Which always happens.
niyaxabana and
Can I ask you, Tim, is that informed by decisions within the caucus, or there's that influence from the external caucus that is trying to break in by luring maybe one of them? What would be the core issue before a caucus that is in power, that is leading, say, the municipality, um, uh, before it disintegrates? What would be some of generally the core issues?
it's uh, not fulfilling the, because when you get into an agreement, you demand, okay, when you get into government, this should be happening, this and this and this and that, and you're negotiating with people. It's like, yeah, we're going to do it. All right, then we say we're going to put you as a mayor, but we need 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And then when the person gets there and everything and forgets, you start knocking. I'm like, but what about that? What about this? And you're getting ignored. So it's within the coalition whereby we seem to disintegrate from what we had initially agreed on. And when one, like for instance, the UDM would stand on an issue, I think you've seen, like saying into ide iyowa. There's utukela.
Yeah.
I think when we're in the NC's coalition, he said,
He also said the same thing, by the way. he said he sticks with this formation until he's the last one to go. He said,
you know,
as well.
so we do that, and we said, hey, Chumam, hey, le bola uyibambe. I remember there was motions that were going on, and we knew our motion is failing. And they said, abandon this motion. And I said, no, let it fail in council. Because if we withdraw it now, there's a perception that we are actually planting in our society to
Yeah.
say we failed. Let them see, basibone failure, so that we can go back and tell them why we failed. Not into basiye we fight sayeka phakathi nendawo. I'm not that person. I go all the way.
There's a principle there, and I'm going to ask you another question on top of it. This is the principle that there are some fights that you have to fight even if you're going to lose. Even when you see that you're going to lose, the honor in you getting into the ring and fighting is also for the fact that there's a principle to what you're trying to do.
True.
But what are those fights that you won't fight, even if you're going to win within the coalition space now?
It's a fight that betrays the trust of the people. Because it's easy to win those. Very easy to win those because you go against your principles and values. And the moment you go against what you believe in and who you are going to win that fight very quickly. In fact, I own a fight. It's a walk in the park, like you just pass and everything. But if you stand on the principle, I'm one person who always says, whenever I stand on a principal position, I will never change, and I know I will get up, clap back, I will resistance and everything. But then the question is, will that pressure be enough for me to abandon what I believe is right? What's the principal position that I hold? Because I believe, if you stick on the principle, history will absolve you, and the truth will seemingly come out. Then from there, like, vindicated from that because you stood on a principle and you knew that this is the right thing to do. If umuntu is just swayed by any wind, very easy, because in the there's what they used to call, when we were still in government, like, these are low-hanging fruits, into ezikhawulezileyo nje singabaqhathanga abantu. And I'm like, but thina nje sonke sibaqhathile ngento ezilula, instead of dealing with the bread and butter issues first. These low-hanging fruits, they're nothing, right? Even abantu bayazibona,
It can be done.
it can be done,
Yeah.
even if you do not even put effort kuloo nto leyo izakwenzeka anyway. But let us go to the ones that we need to put effort in, whereby we need to make sure but we have the funding for it. you've got the resources for it, you've got the manpower for it, and you've got the right principles to implement Londo.
We have Yongama Zigebe, the Secretary General of a United Democratic Movement.
The youngest in the country.
The youngest in the country. How old are you?
35.
You're 35, right? Oh, okay. Because your organization, UDM, is turning 26 on the 27th of September. And are you planning to do something?
Yes, we are. We can't let such a monumental time in the history of the party and the country not be noticed. Secondly, it will be a miss on us not to do it, especially going to the 2024 elections, because
yes.
we need
It should be part of the
you know,
programming.
yes, and it's a time whereby we need to tell people what we have done for the past 26 years and why they should vote for us. In fact, the birthday is a manifesto itself to say this is because if you speak to the general, I think you need to have another conversation. He would tell you that we have prophesied all of these things that are currently taking place in the country, because when he started talking about corruption, it was not fashionable to talk about corruption.
And when he addressed the leadership at the time, I think it was
Yes.
and he eventually started UTM and all of that. No one knew at the time that the ANC could be what we see today.
Yes. So he always says that UDM has always prophesied. Any other thing that comes after, the state capture, there's it's something that UDM, just because we do not call it state capture does not mean that we've never spoken about it. So it's an opportunity for us to tell people what we have prophesied has come to pass. We're not prophets of doom, but we're actually saying to our people, have another look. This one-party state is not working, because if you've got multiple parties who are functioning, but on a regulated way, not in these Mickey Mouse coalitions that we have. And I still believe that we need to regulate our coalition, so that whenever somebody gets into marriage with another one, they don't just break it for the sake of breaking. They know that it is law to maintain and the coalition up until the end of the term. So the one-party state, it is not working. It has never worked. In fact, I think 94 to 99, we were in a transition. We were happy. It was a honeymoon phase for us. But 99 going to 2014, that's when we started to say no. But then remember that the UDM saw this thing in between 94 and 99, that the corruption within the ANC, it is going to cripple the state, and hence the formation of the UDM.
Is it partly, okay, maybe let me not ask you this question, but I think it would also be because the general would have had some kind of an experience leading the Transkei region at the time, which is a state authority that very few people would have had at the time as a 32-year-old. But let's
before you go on, but remember, it says something about the character of the party. The character of the party follows the character of the leader.
Yeah.
When it's
another principle.
When it was because of corruption at the time. So I always say, or I always think to myself, what did the ANC think that he would do within the ANC if une history of Bukuka because of the corruption? So wherever he sees corruption, him and corruption, they don't mix. For the mere fact that he would be, a Bantustan leader at the time, because of corruption, maladministration, no, I can't stand for this thing. Let me rather take the reins. So he comes into the ANC, says corruption, he exposes it, and they expel him for it. And the question was like, from ANC, didn't they know they've got a problem of a corruption pastor within, and they went for it anyway? So
I realize that we might actually be talking a lot of UDM for obvious reasons, that we actually have someone that could be accessible, for a person like me, for an example. And secondly, that we have now established some kind of a communication. I don't have any other organization with the president and secretary to have actually been here. So that's kuthiwa akho mlenze ngenadolo. But I wanna just on a lighter note now, just to find out how does it feel now to actually have to use a calculator to determine whether you are youth or not youth. At 35, you're like, should I regard myself as a youth?
I've used it a lot, eh?
Yeah, you've used,
I've used my phone's calculator. I went into the scientific calculator. I went
and then when you
into
go to a conference, you sort of think,
and I started minusing, and I'm sitting there minus 22. I'm like, is it real? What is happening? Which age do I fall in? Okay, October before June and after June and what? I'm like, what is this?
and psychologically, it's going to be something like you cannot be classified as that youth according to our policy in South Africa. And secondly,
In fact, I don't
but
want
but
to.
you have done ample of community political activism that you don't need to want to hold on to that. I think you have had a very good run as a young person in South Africa, and now this is the next phase. How do you feel about that, being a Secretary General of UDM?
Yo, yo. Kolo, I think I'll never get used to it. Um, for a simple reason. Being in this position as young as I am, one being the youngest SG
In the country?
in the country and also in the political landscape of South Africa, it has never happened. So one, I've broken history and I'm making history. I've broken records and I'm making new records. That in itself, it's a pressure that we were talking about earlier and a sense of responsibility. I said to Nicholas and Rutukela when they congratulating me, I said, my friends, we are happy now because zonke into besithetha ngazo. I assisted Ulanduka Nicholas with his campaigns and everything for him to become the interim DA youth leader, and he did the same thing for me. So when we attend these things, it becomes very serious. Bangathi khange si because we're like, hey, Yan.
Yeah.
But then I said to them, there's something which is in me. I said, my friend, we carry the hopes and aspirations of young people in South Africa today. Not just in our political parties, but the entire nation. If we fail, just so we know that South African youth have failed. Because there's this pushback from the old guard of not wanting to give young people an opportunity to lead. Baqale bathi masizibonakalise if we can. And the question is, where, if you're not giving us an opportunity to do that? So now we have shown ourselves that we can, and we're given a step into the door.
But it work, power concedes nothing without a demand. So
Exactly.
you have to sort of demand
Yeah.
that power to not only to ask for it, which you guys, we're not putting credit or giving credit to you because you are part of entities that are big, that and big machineries, and you are saying that also you have the hopes and dreams of young people, which is something maybe I should say it. You said you come from Engcobo. There's a very interesting academic who had passed on, Uach Mafeje,
Yeah.
comes from Engcobo, and in
We produce the best.
in one of his
Uyekekele,
characterization,
yeah.
in one of his in one of his definition and characterization of what is a leader, he says that a leader is someone that carries the hopes and dreams actually of the people. When the leader goes, you people are saying that this is whom we believe will carry us into our future. That our children need to look like this kind of a person.
True.
And maybe just a point, maybe also to say that you are now introducing something new to us of leading across political parties. Um, and this constellation I was talking about, I don't want to mention all the names, but you are starting to show a different character and attribute in South African politics of being interested in the well-being of the other. Maybe it was there before, but we didn't see it as we are seeing it now. But what does it take, therefore, to be able to reach out to the other leader? And then you still have to fight them on a particular issue.
It takes character. Um, uh, it's not easy to reach out to somebody else of which your ideologies are different. When you get into council, parliament, everything, when you're debating issues, you're debating from a different ideological background. But it takes a character where uh, kuthiwa le nto umntu ngumntu ngabantu. You know where you come from, your upbringing, khuliswe njani, and so on. So when I look at you, I do not look at you as an opponent, but I look at you as an ally, whether we are different. Politics, I take it ngento yoba we are a rainbow nation. Kwabelungu ngabantu abamnyama beTswana yonke loo nto and everything. And the question is, ngubani ozawurepresenta abelungu? Because they've got their own unique needs and the way they think and all of that. So bakhona abarepresenta phaa. Abantu abamnyama different nathi ngendlela yethu. Ngubani orepresenta this group and everything. So then we come into this space which we call parliament or politics. Then we're coming to say these are the interests of the people collectively. Ewa nakwazi ukujikeleza yonke South Africa and get everyone behind me. Hence, even with faith or Christianity. We've seen many churches, and they all serve the same God, but bamdumise uThixo in different forms and ways. And I would like to see a synergy whereby they're working together, because at the end of the day, basisengela thungeni linye. And it's the same thing that I think we are creating, not even trying to create as young people, to say, apho siyakhona is to make sure of the well-being of our people. Ewe, I might not understand indlela owenza ngayo, but we understand wena, because there's a group of people that you lead from Rwanda. Let me respect you. That mutual respect, and also love for people. And when you have got love for people, whether brown, pink, purple, with different ideologies and behaviors and everything, once it's pure love, and we are going to make it.
We're going to get to one of his projects right now, but you can see that we're speaking to a leader, someone who's seasoned enough to be able to lead UDM in a national platform. There's something that I want to mention. When Mark Maharaj, at some stage in one of the documentaries, explains how Mandela dealt with the question of the conflict between the prisoners and the warders in Robben Island, he said that, you know what, once we fight as opponents about our country too long and burn the country down, when we finish that, we will still have to look at these ashes and build a society. And I feel like these young leaders that are emerging have gone past that and have realized that it's no longer necessary to burn every house down in order to reach the kind of objectives and dreams that they are fighting for. But Yongama is also running a campaign on toilets near Zigebe. I want you to talk briefly about how far that campaign, and talk to us about the heart of that campaign.
Okay. The pit latrine campaign.
Pit latrine.
Yes.
Yes.
As toilet zombie wayo and as kolweni. Yeah. It's the indignity for me. Because I remember going into a school, I think Nandivale early or something. So I went to fetch my niece, cousin, esikolweni ekhaya eNgcobo. And when I got there, yo, zimpukane ziyabhuza ngapha. There's a stench which is unbearable. I could not be there for more than 5 minutes. And when I left, I could feel the stench empahleni kum. And I asked myself a question. Aba bantu aba, they go to school every morning and every day, and bahlala kula condition to a point bayiqhelile ngoku. Abasayiva to a point ndambuza ayifundini. I didn't get up as a this is what we are using.
This is school for us.
This is school for us. And it at the time, the campaign did not just start because of that. It's something that I internalized. And in the party I was talking about, I think I issued up a couple of statements and everything. But when Moses Kopane from Limpopo in 2018, if I remember vividly, fell and died in a pit latrine, it ignited that experience. Now, more stories came in. Children here in the Eastern Cape. The latest one we had, Elandukeni, a lady different. You know, these kids, they do not know Bagla. This is a danger zone and everything. So it ignited into something must be done. It was there are cases, especially in Limpopo. The High Court in Limpopo declared and said, government, you must do this thing, do away with this thing in 12, 18 months. Till today. Maseko phase 1, phase 2, there's every excuse not to eradicate these pit latrines. So I had to start that petition to petition Parliament in order to really look into this in dignifying and injustice, and I call it it's a crime against humanity for me, because how we let our people grow up, or our kids grow up, and our people live in such undignifying areas or circumstances. It is for me nale nto yoba sikwazi senze petitions mkulo. See, we must take to the streets to get services we voted for, we paying taxes for me. It doesn't sit well, and I understand uba kutheni le nto funeke urhulumente simfostile uba makenze yakhe. So the campaign is we've submitted at the time we're sitting around about 5,000 plus of signatures and that, and we decided, okay, let's take it to Parliament, and other signatures will come, because what we wanted from Parliament is to take that into the committee education, also have an inter or ad hoc committee abazayifomisha with the committee sanitation, because education yethu yafeyila to get this. What baffles me even worse, Eastern Cape ibuyisele about 2 billion or of schools infrastructure fund back to National Treasury. Months later, kutshona umntana in a pit latrine, which that money could have used to eradicate a pit latrine. So that's what we did. The speaker received it, and then we said to them, cascade it down to, provincial legislatures. We haven't received a report as yet. So has it reached provincial legislatures? Has it been debated? A parliament, they can say, oh, it will take 4 years for it to even get into a roll call to be debated as a motion. But what we're going to do as a UDM is that we are going to put up a motion for it to be debated, at least if not this year, before the elections next year. Because at least in these debates, it brings awareness even to those who need, to start thinking about doing something or actually do something about it. We also said to Parliament, help us get to the President, because he's the head of state. If he speaks about it and says, hey, Minister, DG, don't implement this thing, we believe that it could happen. So hence the petition is there. So our PICOIL currently it's in Parliament, but we are following it up very, very ngamehlo
Of course.
of course.
Of course. This is an interesting issue. Not particularly interesting, but for Yongama to start, maybe next time you come back, because I think you should, would be to tell us exactly how do you take that issue from when you see it and land it into public policy through legislature, and what sort of processes that one has to follow. I have the benefit of having done public administration,
yes.
And I have a bit of an appreciation of the process itself, but then I realized that not everyone, even in the political leadership, understand that process and the structure of government and how everything is happening. We are about to wind this interview out or down, kwanqaba isingesi kuleli xesha ndikulo. But I want him to talk to us maybe about the possibility as EUDM that has a president that has a military background, with an understanding that he has gone through all the military training and leadership training that we can use. What can we salvage, use, benefit from Major General Olomisa when it comes to developing leadership? I know you are part of that beneficiary group, but he might not have said everything that I'm teaching you leadership here, I'm teaching you, but what can we take from him and from UDM as an organization and say, take from this and build leadership?
It's what you can take from him. It's his ability to stand for the truth and the truth only. Because I think that's where leadership begins. When you are able to stand for something and you stand for it, even when it's not fashionable to do so. Uh, he gets a lot of clapback and negative comments and whatnot forth. And the question is, does he even care? He doesn't, as long as he's doing something right. Do the right thing up until it becomes right. To do the right thing. Ethical leadership. I think this is what we have. The country has deteriorated in having for quite some time, and to a point whereby other political parties would even say to the ruling party, "You do not have any other ethical leaders left." Who else after Ramaphosa? Because he himself, he's a questionable character right now. He's under a huge ethical spotlight. So those are the things that you can take. Discipline. The general is disciplined, and be time conscious. Time waits for no one. So young people lately, I think, we do not appreciate the value of time, and of which we should be appreciating the value of time. I was walking in the streets of Joburg yesterday, and I looked at these young people who are coming from school, carefree and whatnot forth. And I said, I had a conversation with a friend of mine I was working with, and I said, you know what, this is a generation that will take care of us. And if we let them be this carefree, without direction, everything, do you know that we are headed to a state whereby it will be carefree with no direction, because we will not have the power or the energy, to make sure that things are happening the way we know they should be happening. But because the generation yama 2000 benza nje unothanda akho mbeko akho ntoni, this is what we are going to get.
I've never heard it being said it like that. I've never heard it being said like that. Ukuthi, one of the benefits of making sure that we raise and rear our children in a good way, and care about how they grow up, is that they are the ones that will be taking care of us. Yongama Zigebe, Secretary General UAUDM. It will be great to actually have him again. Thank you so much for coming, Seth. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best with your plans as an organization, and I wish that you prosper in spirit and in health.
Thank you very much, Mkula, for having me. And just on a parting shot, thank you for the work that you're doing. We met through Ilanduka, your project, Fruits of Democracy,
yes,
and all of that. And we've never lost contact since. And thank you for your leadership. It's very inspiring. I've never sat like this, besides the general, with an author. Of a couple of books and have a conversation, and it was actually mind stretching. I'm like, you uzandibuza is a questions esilungu esikhulu uyasibhala isilungu esikhulu mkhulu. You need to go to the dictionary reading his book in order to understand just one word, and piecing it up into a sentence. But thank you very much for that, and the contribution that you are constantly are doing and be giving into our country. It might seem as if we're doing, but look at us, having to give us these opportunities that no one has given us such opportunities, and have these conversations to actually delve, because the interviews which speaks about a certain topic, but not humanizing the person.
Yes.
And
we miss a lot of you as a result, because we know you around your particular response to
Indeed.
a particular political issue, which might not have been based on caring about your honest reflection, but
Yes.
it's a momentary news thing, which is important at
It is.
times, but I'm really grateful that I have this access to be able to sit down with you. We just had Hadidas flying over, making noise, but if you're in South Africa, you know that these birds, they have their own way of doing things.
That's true.
Thank you so much for the
It's a
blessing
pleasure.
as well. You say, "Ubufundisi buyavela ke
Yeah.
manje." Thank you so much.
Thank
Sure,
you.
sure.